Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be discussing about the basics of research methodology. What is research? What is methodology? What is business research methodology? In the upcoming videos we will be discussing, or in the time permits we will be discussing the business research methodology basics as well. So let's get into research. What is research? The term research itself says something which has to be searched again and again to get the deeper insights on the same. Searching is an activity that has to be taken care with cautious note. When it comes to research, even the smallest of the fact, the ideology has to be journalized. What is journalizing? Journalizing is something important, that recording of the facts, even the grassroots level data, facts, figures, authenticated stuffs, the novelty facts has to be journalized. Let's get into the meaning of research. Research is the systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. The words that is mentioned red in color are very important, and let's see them in specific. It is a systematic investigation. Why it is systematic? Because it is a step-by-step procedure, step-by-step process that has to be taken care of. And then it is an investigation because it leads us to ensure finding out the facts. What are the wow words or W words? What, where, why, when, who, whom, whose, wherein, whereabout, who else. All these are the terminologies that starts with W. They are called W words, the wow words. If we have the answer for all these wow facts, then we get to know some of the facts. Half of the answers is being received. So investigation starts from the grassroots level. So systematic investigation, where the procedure, protocol or the process is being set, that comes under the research process. Study of materials and sources, whatever the materials that it is available, or what are the materials that we have to have or we have been using for the better output in which the research is carried out. Different kinds of sources. Is it the primary source, the secondary source, or where exactly we get the answers, where exactly we get the ideologies, where exactly we get the strategies or clues, the informations to work upon various analysis for acquiring some result. In order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Establishing facts. Not every fact, every data that we collect is a complete wholesome. It is not. It is called as the raw data. The raw data does not give any impact, or it does not give any kind of conclusions. Just by collecting data, we cannot immediately process it. We have to go through them. We have to refine them. We have to clean the data. Cleaning the data is, we should not be having any kind of misleading information or interpretation. We cannot have incomplete facts or incomplete sense of authenticated data. All that has to be taken care to reach new conclusion. Conclusion is important because it cannot be vague. It cannot have its own sense. It has to talk based on the facts. It has to be concluded based on the actuals that we have collected. So that's the meaning of research. The definitions of research. There are n number of definitions given by n number of prominent professors. For example, Indian authors, Indian professors, Indian researchers have contributed. The foreign authors, researchers, professors have contributed. The best of the best is always acquired from the Westerners. So one, we will be seeing it right away, where it is from John Best. He says, research is a systematic activity directed towards discovery and the development of an organized body of knowledge. It is a systematic activity where step-by-step procedure, protocols, processes being set. We discussed this in the meaning, and it is directed towards the discovery of the development. Something which is underdeveloped, which is not even developed, which is not known to its existence is there. And we make a mere attempt to find it out. So that's called research of an organized body of knowledge, something in bits and pieces which is very raw we have, and it has not got its whole shape. It's like out of focus, but then putting them all in one place and working upon them to a particular period of time with all the available resource is called as research. According to Waltz and Basel, research is a systematic, formal, rigorous and precious program employed to gain solutions to problems or to discover the new facts and relationships. Here he said it is formal because informally we cannot perform. Informally we can do, that is based on our own interpretation, our own perception. But when it comes to informal note, it is completely different. It has to be rigorous. Why it is rigorous? Because continuously, with no pause, with no break, with no baggage, it will be taken out. It has to go on its own pace. Slow and steady will give an enormous better results than making a hasty task. Precise procedures. Sometimes for every aspect in the business research or in the normal research, be it in social science, it cannot have a precise one. It depends on the type of research title, the research area, the research objective, the research hypothesis, whatever it is being formalized. It is employed to gain the solutions to problems or to discover the new facts and relationships. What is relationship doing here? The best example is two or more variables, the correlations. Yes, only one factor we take, we cannot. The job satisfaction is the classic example. An employee is feeling satisfied during n number of reasons. When he is paid well, when she is taken care mentally, morally, and an employee feels safe, secure, the job security is there, amenities are provided, mural facility and whatnot, anything that makes an employee feel happy, satisfied and contented are the employees who has the better performance rate. Their job satisfaction index and the happiness index is going to be completely higher. So this is one kind of the research. In this, the relationship between variables is not seen. Maybe along with job satisfaction itself, one other variable can be formed, be it emotional intelligence, be it stress, be it work-life balance. That itself forms a separate base for people to work upon the relationship, the bond between two or more variables. So work-life balancing, an employee has to take care of personal life and professional life. Just for the sake of personal life, he or she cannot compromise on the other part of the life. But it is highly challenging in the developing countries like in India and in many other countries also. The work-life balance is not well balanced, but many corporates, many institutions, many organizations are making a genuine attempt to see that employees' work-life balance is properly taken care. So now if we see the job satisfaction and work-life balance can correlate to each other. What will be the level of satisfaction if at all the work-life balance has got its minimal way or normal way or abnormal way? The impact and influence is going to be completely different. So that's the very good example. And here is one of my favorite definitions, because almost every student likes to go through this for the sake of scoring the marks. According to Redman and Morey, research is a systematized effort to new knowledge. Yes, exactly. It is systematized, it is procedural, it is a process oriented, it's task oriented, investigating, journalizing, recording of facts, figures to conclude it to the new knowledge, where it is from unknown to the known factors. So these are all the definitions about research. Next, we will be discussing about the nature of research. The nature of research has comprised with 5 points only. There are many, but these are the most important points. Systematic activity. Yes, it is systematic activity because it involves lot of human capital, it involves lot of energy, it involves finances, it involves lot of prenocian texts. Logical process. Yes, it is logical process because abnormal deviations, directions, calculations cannot be performed. The logical process ensures that what has to be performed no matter what with the data is there. For example, we have collected the data. These days we have all kind of software package. After the invent of artificial intelligence, the data that can be fed in no matter the time is, we are able to get the desired output. The different kinds of output that we get gives different kind of impressions. The same visualization, the data visualization can also be done, but it's the human logic sense that decides what has to be considered when the data is fed to the software and what is not to be. The best example is what is to be the independent variable, what is the dependent variable, or what even is the moderating variable, or what are all the factors that has to be considered. Anything that we feed to the computers, to the software package, it is definitely going to give us the right answer. But if it is correct or wrong is the common human logic sense that has to be deciding upon. Iterative process. Yes, the checklist always has to be maintained because repetitive tasks will not make any sense until and unless it's going to be the waste of mere energy, resources, or even any kind of factors for say. Based on empirical evidences. What is empirical? Be it conceptual, we know exactly everything is in textual base, contextual base, verbal base. But when it comes to numerical data, it talks only about the valuations. It talks only about the statistical significance. But when both conceptual and valuation, both they join together, they give us the empirical evidence. Empirical talks about both facts and concepts, theories, theorems, or anything that can be going in hand. They both are like hand in gloves. Controlled in nature, with no deviations, with no dilutions, the research can be carried out, it can be altered, it can be worked upon. It is not that it has to be static, it can be flexible also, but abnormal changes, abnormal means of getting things done during the processions, that too especially once the halfway is traveled or 3/4 is done, just because of simple or mere silly reasons, it is not advisable for anybody to have mixed motions to change in the research fundamentals. It is better to have a change or consideration during the process itself, because it is very important for people to understand the facts, that the usage of factors in research, be it human capital, be it the time, be it the money or funding, the financing that it is involved, be the resource that it is utilized through any source, any number of source, it is highly commendable, it is highly recommendable that people who is wise enough to decide has to have their approvals done. And then it is better to proceed further. This is the nature of research. And next we talk about the objectives of research. Objectives, which talks about the main focus, the main meaning as why at all we have been processing this research work or this research tasks. The objectives can be clustered into 3 different types merely in social science. Be it primary objectives, they are the first type of objectives. Secondary objectives, the secondary facts. Tertiary objective, which is in the generalized mode. For example, getting to know the demographies of the variable, which is the respondents or the population, the cases of a particular research is called the primary objective. Secondary objective, to know its correlationship, to know its relationship status, the bondage between them. to know the influence, to analyze the impact, how well things are getting indulged between the factors, between the variables. Those are called the secondary objectives. Tertiary objectives. Tertiary objectives are those where the suggestions, the recommendations, discussions are given. Things that add value to the organization, things that add value to individuals, things that add value to the entire society comes with the tertiary objectives. But trust me, when we work on tertiary objectives, the journalizing activity which we have been performing since the beginning has its own weightage. Okay, firstly, let's talk about the objectives that it is mentioned here. Research extends knowledge. Yes, it is always helping us to gain the new knowledge from unknown to the known knowledge. Research unveils the mysteries of nature. There are questions which does not have answers. So those are mysterious. Why at all this is happening? Everything goes well. Every season is fine. Every business activity is being performed well. But then the sales ratio is completely abnormal. The pitching, the market potential is good. Every reason seems to be very good. But something is not okay to be with. So it is the responsibility of the researcher to undergo to understand what went wrong. Again, the SWOT analysis, as in the previous videos, the SWOT analysis can always be performed to see the better outcome of the factuals, the actuals to be known. Next, research establishes generalizations and general laws. Why it is generalized? Because each and every activity that is generalized is going to have its own impact. Because it is social science, each and every moment, even the seconds, the answers, the taste, the preferences, the likes, the dislikes of individual customers or the consumers or the cases is going to get differentiated. Something that I love today may not be liked before a decade. When I was a school-going kid, I loved eating ice cream, but right now I cannot. I am not loving to eat ice cream, but still I like. There is difference between loving something and liking something towards some products, goods and services. There are a number of reasons why I love, why I like. Because of age factor, because of the health factor, the loveliness towards certain things, the change towards the likeliness of certain things. So that is called the generalizations. Next, research verifies and tests. Exactly, it has to verify because we cannot talk, justify or comment anything on air. It has to have its proven ideas. It has to have its factuals on ground. It has to have its own way of conveying things. It is testable because it has to be testable because it leads to the large volume of people, the mass volume of people, because it is through a word of mouth, anything can be conveyed just like that. So it has definite impact over the business. General laws developed through research. Yes, laws is developed through research because the likeliness, the authenticity, the ethical values, the principles and procedures will definitely make sure the business tenure or the growth of the business is going to be taken care by the research. Abnormalities happen, then the government or the local bodies, the apex bodies of the ethical systems has to take care of it. Research analyze interrelationships. Why interrelationships? Because it will always have the cause and effect relationship. Because of something, something is going to happen. Because of some factor, something is going in a normal way or an abnormal way. Applied research aims at finding solutions. Application-oriented research, exactly X. They go in finding solutions because they wanted to know what exactly is happening in the market. That too, they become very cautious during abnormal state of mind or state of business affairs. It aims to develop tools and concepts. What is tools? When it comes to research, the terminology tool means a standard set of questionnaire. What happens with that? The tools is used as a helping aid, aid, where it has set of questions given to analyze the research title or the research problem or the research objective. Based on the theory, based on the factors, conceptual understandings, the questions is being set, which are other way called as items in research terminology. On 360-degree areas, the questions are being framed so that the holistic view, the empowered view of that particular research concept can be covered with individuals who are the respondents or cases in any areas. Research aids in planning. Exactly, it aids in planning because it involves lot of human capital, finance, funding, whatnot. Anything that is invested should have its own output. It should have its outcome, right? If not, it is a waste of resource, waste of factor. Something very productive may not happen if it is not utilized well. Utilization of the resource in research should always be taken care, or it has to be prioritized to the greater extent. Rational decision making. Why rational decision making? Because rational decision making has to be done, because any resource, any policies in giving the data, facts, figures cannot be given just like that, or it cannot be taken it for granted. So it is important to take care of it then and there when it is provided. And these are the set of other objectives: to explore about the unknown, as we have already discussed. The unknown or half-baked fact figures can always be concluded by performing mere research work. To describe the features, to know exactly how the texture is, what is the scenario, what is its potential, what is the intensity of it, how well it is merged, or how well it is indulged in, to have an impact or influence on the other parameter. So that itself is an objective: to explain the phenomenon, the routine, the procedural, to know its nature, how well, when it is to be, why it is to be, why not, is all the answer. To predict future activities, yes, it is to forecast the future, to be industry ready, to be market ready, to ensure what are the preparedness that has to take care, or it has to be worked upon for better results. To influence activities, yes, it is always to influence the activities for better understanding or for better outcome. Next is the research process. To talk about research process, we have two different kinds of research process that can be worked upon for the betterment of students or research scholars or academicians or any business professionals, for the better idea or to have the best purview of the proceedings. But it is highly advisable for business professionals and research scholars to utilize this bigger process, because it has so much of intensified knowledge when we work upon. But for undergraduate students, or even for the higher level students like in international board schools, okay, like +1 and +2, 11th grade and 12th grade students, the research process in the upcoming few minutes we will be discussing, where the process is minimalized. For their age, for their experience, the minimalistic view is more than sufficient. But here it has to be taken care in every box of the research process. To begin with, this process has got more than dozen phases. We cannot bypass based on the objective, the title, the gap, 1 or 2 levels, but maximum, to the best of my knowledge, I personally feel that all these levels has to be satisfied or used in the research work. Selecting the research topic is very, very important. It has to be market ready, it has to be industry ready, it should have value, it adds value to the commoner, any society. It has to have its value even after a decade. So those are the kind of criteria in which we have to be selecting the research topic. So selecting the research topic will be the primary goal of any researcher or any project internee. Defining the research problem, why we have selected that particular title, why we have selected that particular scenario, what is the main ideology, why, what is it all made us to select that research topic. That is defining the research problem. Objectives of research, exactly what is that I am going to figure it out, what is that I am going to find out, what is that I am going to conclude, what is that I am able to understand by doing so many processes, by finding out the actuals, what is that I can gain out of it. Literature survey. Literature survey is very conventional or very important criteria for any researcher, because literature survey is always going back to the past, going back to the previous history, going back to the previous research work on the same title, same ideology, or even the same strategy that has always been worked upon, so that the differences between the period of time somebody has performed something before a decade or before 5 years to the same title, if we are working to the same research problem, if we are working, what is the intensity out of it, what is the level of significance, what are the gaps that I can be identifying, that makes a major difference. That is why literature survey is used. Formulation of hypothesis. What is hypothesis? The word hypothesis means it may or may not. Are we accepting it or rejecting it? Base level, there are two different kinds of hypothesis, H0 and H1. Are we accepting the research objective? Are we not accepting it? All this acceptance and rejection will be based on the statistical inference, based on the statistical value that we can derive during the times of data analysis and interpretation. The hypothesis formed or framed has to be realistic. It has to be having a significant impact when it is done. Selecting research design. What is design? Literally, for example, we go to a tailor shop with our fabric. We wanted to stitch a shirt. We give the pattern. We get the design out of it. We have designs like what kind of collar we wanted to fit in. Is it going to have a Chinese collar or the normal collar, closed neck or wide neck? What is the kind of sleeve? Is it quarter? Is it like bicep fitting? Is it half sleeve or it is full sleeve? It has to have the cuts by the sides of the shirt or behind the shirt. Should I have the button or should I have the zip? Should I have my button towards the right side or the left side? Should I have the pocket only on the left side of my shirt or also on the right side? If at all I have the left side, should I have the pocket inside also? We are designing the fabric to give us a beautiful end product. Same way for research also, research design has to be done. There are different kinds of research design. In the upcoming videos, we will be discussing about it. So research design is something very important which adds beautification to the research work. Without that, we cannot proceed further. Next, sample design. What is sample design? It deals about sampling. Sampling is dealing about the customers, the consumers, the respondents, the beneficiaries, the case, whoever it is, based on any kind of references, any kind of people who can interpret their perception through verbal mode, through valuation mode, through ranking mode. So sample design. Who are my respondents? Where can I approach them? Which sector they belong to? Which area they belong to? What is the population? What is the population that I can cluster them? Is it based on gender? Is it based on nativity? Is it based on educational qualification? Is it based on experience? Is it based on sector? And number of parameters are there when we work about our sample design. Collection of data will be the next phase. What is data? the facts, the figures, even the smallest of the minutest of the data from the respondent is to be treated with very careful note that it has an impact to change the answers, to change its significant level. So the data can be collected through different means: primary data, secondary data, tertiary data. What is primary data? The data that has been collected through the direct source with the respondents, first-hand information, that is called primary data. What is secondary data? The secondary data is something which is already established, which is already published, which is already existing in journals, in whatever form of pamphlets, in records, in gazette office, in newspapers, in books, back volumes, etc. The best example for using secondary data is the finance research. Finance research are the research that which is always worked upon to forecast the future, predict the future, what it is to be, the budgeting. It is always there when we go back to the history of the business organization. So that is collection of data. Tertiary data through any other sources other than the primary and secondary, with whatever information that is extra through the audio mode or through the experience if somebody is going to share. Even that can also be used as data, and that kind of data can be used in discussions, that can be given as recommendations, that can be showcased as suggestions. Yes or no? Execution of project. The execution of project is done once the data is collected. Directly we cannot analyze or use the data. We have to have a number of times cross-checking once the data is collected. We have to always ensure whatever the data that I have collected is sufficient. Is it complete or is it incomplete? Where it is missed out. All this has to be taken care. Next, analysis of data. Analysis of data is done with the help of software package these days. For social science, it is SPSS, PSPP, AMOS, Smart PLS, R Studio, Smart PLS, and everything, etc. All this, but after this computer science evolutions have taken place with artificial intelligence, through AI, through Python, through deep learning, the data can be minced. The normal data cannot be minced with the previous software packages that I have told, but in these days anything can be sliced, it can be minced. When the data is being sliced, the impact, the outcome, the result is going to be very powerful. It is very complex to handle the data if it is of this kind. Testing of hypothesis. Once the analysis is carried out, the testing of hypothesis is done based on the objectives that it is formed. Once the output is analyzed, it is derived, we get to know if it is got accepting the hypothesis or rejecting the hypothesis. If it is acceptance in nature, what is the justification? If it is got rejection, yes, Indian context, if rejection, negativity, negative answers, negative implications is seen, we have to have a solid texture, solid output that can be taken care. Generalization and interpretation of data. It is otherwise called as inference. When you think about the report, just imagine a tabulation is there with all the data filled in with all the headings, numeric values, and all the valuations that is mentioned. Below that there is called inference or interpretation. What exactly it is there in the data sheet or in the tabulation can always be verbalized. If we see the tabulation, we need not have to read. We need not have to read if anything is specifically done, because it is through pie chart, bar chart, or any other plot diagram. The numeric values are again going to be depicted. So when an analysis is performed to the basic level, for example, the descriptive tabulation or the frequency tabulation is done, it is going to be the tabulated values and then the pictorial representation of the frequency, and then goes with the interpretation. When we watch out the tabulation, we need not have to interpret anything on the verbal note. So vice versa it works. Then lastly, the preparation of the research report. Yes, the research report can be prepared really well. It has to be taken care because so much of hard work, so much of human capital, so much of finance is invested or involved in it. So the report has to have its voluminous in its output, in its theory perspective, the way it has got neatly projected, neatly presented will always have its impact. So this is all about the research process to the greatest note for academicians or for the project givers, the fundraisers who is funding the project, or for the business professionals. And here, if you can see towards the left end of the screen, you are able to see the blue color research process where it can be given to the school going kids who are in 11th grade or 12th grade in the international board. Even they are undergoing the research, and then this can always be given to the undergraduate level where with the in-depth knowledge and analysis can always be given to them, and it is going to be definitely helpful where few phrases or few slabs is not being mentioned here, but it doesn't mean they are not. They are indirectly or invisibly working with the mentioned framework. Defining the research problem, designing the research, data collection, sample specification, that is working about the respondents or the cases, data collection, data analysis, and the report generation. So I'm sure this is the shorter, the mini version of the big level of research process. Next is about the significance of research. What is significance? Why at all it is used? What is the reason or prime source for us to carry out research, for us to do research? It is to gather necessary information, whatever we wanted to know, what is the hidden agenda, what is the hidden facts, how much ever it is visible, how much is still there underneath to figure it out. That matters. To make changes, yes, it cannot be always in one form. It always have to have change is inevitable, change is important, change is necessary, because it is very conventional or the growth phase or something very transitional. If it is not seen, it's going to be boredom, no progress, no big progress, or revolutionized thoughts may not be possible if at all things are not moving forward in a feasible way. Improving standard of living, yes, because of the research the standard of living is enhancing, because the improvisation, the impact, the depth of anything can always be analyzed. For a safer life, yes, it is for a safer life, because anything that is abnormal is not okay, is not cool, it is not acceptable at all. To make sure that everything is very perfectly fine, picture perfect, and everything goes as per the expectations, then it seems that everything is satisfiable. So for that, a base research has to be worked upon. To know the truth, to know the ground reality, to know anything on grassroots level. So that itself will play an impactful role. Next, explore our history, which is again going back to the past, which is like review of literature, literature survey. How it was, how it used to be, and how it is right now. What has happened for the significant or the scenario to be at this level, and how it is going to be in the near future when it is transist from one form to the other form. So the vast differences between the time period or between whatever the abnormalities that internally and externally the environment has given us. Understanding arts. Understanding arts is very important, because managing people is an art. Managing people or the human capital is an art, because human capital are individuals, the customers, consumers. Being a marketer, convincing them is an art. Making them buy the product, selling the product or goods or services is completely challenging. We have to create the awareness. You have to be creating the needs, necessities for them to purchase the product, goods or services. Here are some more significances that adds value. Research inculcates scientific thinking. Exactly, it ensures scientific thinking, because proven researchers, proven thought processes, proven enablers, proven technique strategies has always been a positive synergy to work with. Increased role of research. Increased role of research because people wanted the novelty in anything that they do. People wanted to have the authenticity when they make, even to make a small purchase for the minimal price range. People does research. The comparative study can be done. For example, in India or in developing countries, if we see, to purchase any gadgets, any devices, there are several websites where the comparative study can be done. Even when the comparative study can be done, for example, brand A laptop, brand B laptop, if I wanted to purchase one out of two, I can definitely go to Google and ask for comparisons. It has done enormous research and it is going to give me the best of its best results. So that is increased role of research. Provides basis. Why it provides basis? Because it has to have the strongest feel. It has to have its own impact. It has to have its own synergy. All the base level information should be authenticated, should be like viable, should be very much available for researchers to work on. Solving operational and planning problems. What is operational? Because it has to be hands-on, it has to be available, it has to be materialized, it is visible, it must be visible for people to convey, to people to convert it. Planning problem. If planning is not done properly, or any of the factors is not seen, then the research question, the fundas is not proper, then the ideology or the process itself may get diluted. Again, it's a booming process where it starts from the bottom level. Important for social scientists. Who is a social scientist? The researcher who has got a very good impact to do a social research which adds value to the society or to the common man. That is called a social scientist. For them, this kind of research is definitely a bless. It is essential in all businesses. Yes, it is essential in all businesses, because just like that, if we have funds, we cannot start a business. We have to see the market potential. For that, the market research has to be done. We have to have the proper human capital. Yes, proper human capital has to be recruited, who has got its ideology, who has got its experience, who has got hands-on experience to be working on. For managerial decision making. Yes, research has to be done for making decisions, for making business decisions, because it is very important for people to make decisions to the greater insights. Hasty decisions will lead to dissatisfaction for the business premises, for the profits in businesses. So these are all the significances of research. Next, the limitations of research. What is the limitations of research? The limitations of research can other way called as the dissatisfaction or the demerits or anything that is working upon. Next, the limitations, I'm not segregating them. Overall, the limitations are demerits that we can discuss in detail. Lack of fund. Yes, these days it is preferably fine or comparatively very much satisfied because of the sustainability SDG goals, because of the new foreign investment policies that has got a huge hype in our country. The investment or the funding procedures is taken care to the greater extent. No centralized database. Exactly. There is no centralized database because the researcher have to have enormous volume of data. The back volumes in the libraries are definitely not supporting evidence because everything is systematized, everything is automated. So the researcher should have a predominant or profound knowledge or interest to utilize the information technology. No coordination among researchers. Why there is no coordination among researchers? Because everybody should have an attitude to help each other. Hand in hand, the researchers have to grow. If not, it is not going to help any of them. It will definitely take longer period of time to complete the research. But when people work hand in hand on the same gloves, it means that the progress is much better when compared to soleness working, and then it is going to have a better focus point when somebody is going to get involved for the betterment of the research work. Lack of library management. The library management is going to be very abnormal because countries like in developing countries or underdeveloped countries, if researches has to be done or it is to be carried out, the library facility is not satisfied because the source of funds, the investment made to the library is not happening to the greater extent. It is abnormal. So people cannot make genuine research or satisfied research. They can still cook up or they can still bypass with whatever they are doing. Absence of ethics in research. Ethics is the main mantra, main buzzword. Ethics is okay, but to some extent it has to be taken care with no dilutions. Why no dilutions? Because the flavor or the wholesomeness of the research or the interest that the researcher has can be compromised. When things are getting compromised, it may not be in proper shape. It doesn't give the sense of holistic satisfaction. So it is going to be in another way. Lack of proper contact between research department. Yes, for example, Government of India has got many number of research foundations or research institutes, but how many real researchers or the project holders or the fundraisers are approaching them? If so, the project officers are getting sanctioned. That's again a very big question mark. It is again a limitation. No trust on researchers. Yes, because the previous past or the history has shown abnormal results. That is not acceptable. It is not understandable also. Just for the sake of doing, if it is done, then no proper in-depth knowledge or output that adds value to the society is not seen. Lack of skilled researcher. Yes, researchers are there. People who can do research is there in huge number. But how well they are doing it, how well they are taking up their research, how well they are able to mince or slice the problems, defining the objectives, how well they are able to give the minutest of the answers or the facts and figures. Data manipulation. Why data manipulation? The data manipulation is done because of the lack of patience, lack of funding, proper funding, lack of resources. If anything which is abnormal is there, and there comes the cooking up story. So the data manipulation will definitely take place. So the novelty of the research again is a very big question mark. Costly affair. Why it is a costly affair? Because it deals with finance. Investment is done. So the genuine funding has to be utilized for the proper research. It is not utilization of funds for something which is abnormally carried out in this scenario. So these are all the limitations of research. And right now we have discussed about what research is. So now we are getting into what is business research. The meaning of business research. Anything that deals with business, anything that deals with operations, anything that deals with abnormality on the transaction. That is called business research. Research conducted for describing the research problems is called business research. Any phases, any process of business will definitely face its challenges, and that challenges can always be converted or seen as the research to find the best of the best solutions or answers to the questions. It plays a key role in deriving consumer demands for the existing business. When it is business, the default terminology is the consumer or the customer, but then only the customer or consumer, the marketing is not the whole business. There are many other aspects, attributes also. For example, operations, for example, sales, for example, time management, inventory management, goods management, tax management, human capital management, finance management, everything. The best example is starting a new business in any kind of market. The definition. The definitions of business research, according to McDaniel and Gates, business research is the planning, collection and analysis of data relevant to business decision making and the communication of the results of this analysis to management. So it jointly has the meaning of research, and since it is from business research, it is talking about the other functionalities of business. It talks about planning, it talks about analysis of the relevant business data which is used to make decisions. Always the decisions can be done based on facts, figures. On top of it, how it is getting communicated. Is it well communicated? It is underneath. Or what is the analysis of the management for them to take the decision. Nature of business research. Previously, before some time, we were discussing about the nature of research. And I hope all of us recollect that. Right now, we are discussing about business research nature. It is systematic and organized. Yes, it is organized because all the data, facts, figures has to be lined up, because n number of operations are always interrelated. They are correlated. Objective approach, because it has to be precise, it has to be specific, and it is objective. Because when it is getting deviated or diluted, the actual figures or the actualities of the problem or the research gap may not be faced. Applied in nature, it is applied research. It has to be taken into kind consideration of the researcher, because it is all on the ground level. It is all the actuals. It is actual happening on the day-to-day or daily basis. Involves lengthy fact-finding exercise. Why? Because everything is interrelated. All the business operations are related to one another. The finance is highly connected to all the domains and divisions, departments of the business entity. Even the front office, front desk is connected to all the divisions of the business organization. Problem oriented. Yes, it is problem oriented because we have to have answers. We have to give the possible solutions for people to understand what exactly it is to be done. Conducted in a dynamic environment. It is conducted in a dynamic environment because it is dynamic in nature, as it has got its operation to the round the clock scenario. Because business is a word, but the operations are like emotions. If one process procedure is stopped, it is a break for the other divisions or other department, other process to take its own phase. Objectives of business research. The objectives of business research are classified again into primary, secondary and tertiary. But the basic objectives are to estimate the expenses. What is that the expense or the expenditure that it is incurred during the procedural aspects of the business. To determine the prices, to know what exactly the pricing strategy or the price of the product or services that has to be considered or assisted. To assist managers in the decision making process. Yes, all the reports, all the considerations, all the objectives are mainly focusing upon making or taking the best decisions for the betterment of individuals, for the betterment of that particular department or division, or for the growth of the entire organization. To evaluate the market trend, to know the market trend, because we don't know when the market falls, we don't know when the boom or the boon factor appears in the market. Because of demonetization, the classic conventional example, because of demonetization, because of GST, what not had happened. To achieve competitive advantage, to achieve the competitive advantage, to see the best of the best in all the business scenarios. These are all the objectives of business. Next, the scope of research. The scope of research is one of the predominant attributes in business research, because all the functionalities of the businesses can be worked upon. The scope of research is classified based on accounting and finance, human resource development and organizational behavior. I haven't mentioned few other which talks about human resource development or organizational behavior, labor welfare and industry relations. They are all in one because they deal with human capital, human beings, the workforce of any business entity or the organization. Marketing research, which does not only stop with marketing, it deals with service marketing, it deals with branding, it deals with potentials and whatnot. Industrial research, it talks about automation, it talks about production also to the next level. So that is other way called as the production research. Organization research, it is a holistic view, the 360 view of the research that can be carried out. Now let us see each and every scope of business research in a detailed way. Also, the examples are listed out in a beautiful way so that the clarity on the concept can be gained for the betterment of students, scholars and any other listeners, viewers of this video. When it comes to accounting and finance, it always works on budgetary, the budget management, practices, the procedures, what used to be done or carried away when particular budget is allocated. What is it happening when it is abnormally done? Inventory costing methods and practices. What is inventory? The stock of raw materials or the goods on the dock. Inventory management. When a raw material is purchased, it is not purchased when it is need. When the product cost is affordable, very much cheaper, and then we stock out the goods in the dock. That's called the dock room. Depreciation method and impact on their earnings. The depreciation can be carried out because the good ones purchased on the same day, the very next day the depreciation starts working on. So even that involves funding, that involves money or money's worth. So that has to be taken care. Transfer price methods or pricing methods and their impact on earnings. The pricing strategy has to be considered or worked upon based on the market scenario. During the demand and supply of the product from our source or from the competitor source, it has to be analyzed, it has to be forecasted, it has to be presented. Individual investment behavior. Once the profit is gained, once the dividend is done, once the debentures are carried over, what is the ratio, what is the pattern of investment that can be carried out? That itself will give revenue to some extent, and that revenue can be generated for any other business operations. Capital structure and capital budgeting decisions. Capital structure, there are different types of capital that can be utilized in the business operations or in the business premises. So what is best for what period of time? During the demonetization, during the GST time, what happened? Everything was upside down. Everything was turned to be abnormal. So that has to be taken care. Next, mergers and acquisitions towards the impact of company earnings. The best example when we talked about mergers and acquisitions, it's all about the Tatas, the Land Rover, the Jaguar, whatnot, everything. The Facebook has taken over the Meta, WhatsApp and Facebook, Instagram and Facebook. Yes, these are the classic examples when we talk about the mergers and acquisitions. Next, when we talk about the human capital, it comprises of human resource development and organizational behavior. Employee behavior, employee attitude, leadership traits, all these are all on individual perspectives. When we talk about the human capital, it always has slices. First, the first level, the individual level. Second level is the team or the group members level. Third is the organizational level. So first level is comprising, or it is termed as internal level. The third level, organizational level, is termed as the external level. So the performance appraisal system. The performance appraisal system talks about the impact of knowledge, which is very, very important. The performance appraisal system comprises of many different attributes, like how an employee works, how they really perform, key performance indicators. They call it as KPI. That has its own impact. Next, assessment center and evaluation. Again, assessment center. Why? How I am being valued. How is the impact or the influence of the organization has made impact to one particular employee. That matters. Strategy formulation and implementation. What are the kinds of strategy that I can put into my human force or the workforce so that the performance, the output, the turnover on the product or services given can be enhanced. End of the day, it is all the human factor, because human beings naturally prone to have different levels of attitude, kinds of attitude, different personality level, perception level, motivation levels, morale levels. Everything is termed to be abnormal, and when everything termed to be abnormal, they are very much different in what they seek. Data warehouse, where all the data starting from their education, starting from their language, skill set, ideology, hobbies, likes, dislikes, experience, whatnot, each and everything, even the medication records, even the fitness report, even the mark memos, everything is being noticed, everything is being captured for any future references. Financing decisions. Financing decisions is very well important because finance plays its major role. When finance is taking its major role, it means that proper increment hike or promotion has to be given to the employees. Compliances with government regulation. Why compliances with government regulation? Compliance with government regulation means the employees ESI benefits or Factories Act of 1948, the company law, the mercantile law, every law has to be taken care. All these laws are amended for taking care of employees from not being exploited. So that is about the scope of business research comprising HRD and OB. Marketing research. Marketing research, it talks about the demand forecast that always has an impact. Then consumer buying behavior, measuring advertising effectiveness, what type of medium we have to be using for advertising, what type of advertisement scenario has to be taken. It is oral or it is video or it is audio video. Where exactly? Is it on the television? Is it on the social media? Is it on the big screen in theaters? So the different group of consumers and customers will be telecasted, will be able to hear or listen or view or visualize the advertisement of the product or services that is described to the market. Test marketing. Test marketing is one of the predominant areas of research because these days every product procedures take care to the greater extent for the consumers to be utilizing. Why? Because it always has an impact to use it. Yes, test marketing, be it like car showrooms, test drives are given. The products FMCG goods sometimes gives test marketing products. For example, for Synthol, if we buy 3, we get a Reynolds pen. For example, Hammam soap, if we purchase 4, a tumbler is given. For a body soap, what is it to do with a tumbler? So for households, they have attracted, they have pitched into the household vibes. Okay, the product positioning, where exactly the product can be sold, which is the apt place for the market to get targeted. The product definition, how well the product is getting defined or getting advertised or getting noticed or getting launched in the market. That is